The secret power of silence and strategic absence. There's a brutal truth about human nature that no one dares to say out loud. To many people, your kindness isn't a gift. It's a weakness to be exploited. You know the feeling. That exhaustion that goes beyond being physically tired. It's an emptiness in your soul, the result of saying yes when every fiber of your being screamed no. You've become the safe harbor for everyone, but your own ship is silently sinking. They call you reliable, helpful, a team player, but at the end of the day, who really benefits from your limitless energy? What if I told you that the secret to reclaiming your power, your peace, and the respect of others doesn't lie in doing more, being faster, or more efficient? What if this secret was in doing less, in mastering the art of absence, in wielding the power of silence? In this video, we're going to decode conscious unavailability, not as an act of selfishness, but as the highest form of self-mastery. I will show you how to use strategic silence to break the patterns of control that keep you trapped and transform the way the world sees you, from a resource to be consumed to a presence to be revered. Are you ready to learn the key? Absolutely. Let's dive into the depths of this issue, exploring the hidden currents that shape our interactions and our sense of self. Imagine for a moment your psychic energy, your life force, as a spring of pure water at the center of your being. Every yes you utter without conviction, every message you answer out of obligation, is like a small channel diverting water from that spring. At first, it seems harmless, but over time, these channels multiply, turning your inner spring into a shallow, stagnant swamp. Modern society has taught us to wear our availability as a badge of honor, to be the go-to person who always gets it done. This is the persona, the mask we present to the world. A useful mask, but a dangerous one. When we forget, it's just a mask. When the persona merges with our true self, we start to believe that our value lies solely in our usefulness to others. Herein lies the first subtle trap, the confusion between being good and being useful. Being a genuinely good person emanates from a core of strength and authenticity. Being merely useful, on the other hand, often stems from fear. The fear of being rejected, the fear of conflict, the fear of facing what others will think of us if we dare to draw a line in the sand. This fear is fertile ground for manipulation. Let's think about a man we'll call John. John was the archetypal nice guy at his office. He'd answer emails at 10 at night, take on extra tasks on weekends, and his mantra was, "No problem." He felt a low-grade, constant resentment, and an anxiety he couldn't name. His own projects, the ones that could actually advance his career, were always on the back burner. He was praised for his team spirit, but he watched promotions go to others, those who, interestingly enough, seemed to guard their time more fiercely. John was a safe harbor for everyone. The problem was, his harbor was always open, unguarded, and its provisions were running out. This dynamic reflects a truth Schopenhauer pointed out with clarity. Much of human suffering derives from the will, that blind, incessant impulse to desire, to seek, to assert oneself. In John's case, the will manifested as a desperate desire for external validation. By chasing this image, he became a slave to the expectations of others. This is where the practice of conscious unavailability becomes not an act of selfishness, but an act of soul retrieval. Inspired, John decided to try it. He started small. He stopped answering emails after 6 p.m. When a colleague asked for immediate help instead of the automatic yes, he started saying, "Let me finish this, and I'll see if I have the bandwidth. I'll get back to you." At first, he felt guilty. There was some awkwardness, but he stuck with it. The process of individuation, this journey to become who you truly are, requires space. It requires silence. By creating these small pockets of unavailability, John began to hear the voice of his self, muffled by years of external noise. He could finally examine his own motivations, his own desires, separate from what others wanted from him. It is in silence that you can do the same work. Strategic silence was John's tool. By not responding immediately, he sent a subtle signal. My time is my own. I am in control of my focus. This wasn't aggression. It was personal sovereignty. He broke the stimulus-response cycle that kept him in a state of constant reactivity, the same reactivity that perhaps governs your day. Consider the power of the pause. John's phrase, "Let me check and get back to you," created a sacred space. In that space, he could consult with himself. Do I really want to do this? Do I have the energy for it? Over time, he discovered that the honest answer, found in that stillness, was often no. And that was okay. His conscious unavailability began to reveal the true nature of his relationships. Some colleagues drifted away. They were the ones whose relationship with him was purely transactional. But his boss, after some initial awkwardness, began to give him higher responsibility tasks because he perceived that John's time was valuable. His yes now carried more weight because it was chosen, not compulsory. Those who protest, who accuse you of having changed, are actually giving you a gift. They are revealing that their relationship with you was based on utility. It's a painful but necessary revelation. It's a filter that separates the gold from the pyrite in your social circle, just as it did for John. This practice also involved reclaiming his mental space. John started taking lunch away from his desk, without his phone. He rediscovered reading. In this apparent void, his anxiety began to subside. Inner peace, which he once thought was a myth, began to feel like a tangible reality. It's important to note that John didn't become a hermit. The helper persona wasn't destroyed, but rather mastered. He was still a kind and supportive colleague. The difference is that his actions now came from a place of conscious choice and abundance, not from compulsion and scarcity. He was giving water from an overflowing spring, not from a well that was running dry. This change in posture is, in essence, an act of integrating the shadow. John's shadow contained his ability to say no, his desire for boundaries, his righteous anger against exploitation. By embracing conscious unavailability, he didn't become a bad person. He became a whole person. The journey to individuation is the journey to wholeness. It requires you to pull your energy back from the distractions of the outer world and reinvest it in yourself. It's a quiet work, invisible to most, but it is the most important work you will ever do. Think of the great oaks in the forest. They don't grow strong by trying to please the other trees. They grow strong by sinking deep roots into the earth, standing firm in their own space. Their generosity is a byproduct of their strength, not the cause of it. John was learning to be an oak. Over time, something remarkable happened. People began to treat his time with respect. His word carried more weight. He went from being a resource to be exploited, to a presence to be valued. He finally finished that personal project and, with his newfound confidence and focus, secured the promotion that had once eluded him. This is not an easy path. It will require you to face discomfort. It will require you to be more honest with yourself. But the reward, as John discovered, is true freedom. The freedom from the incessant need to please. The freedom to live life on your own terms, guided by your own inner compass. So, the invitation is not to close yourself off from the world, but to open up to yourself, to find the strength in stillness and the power in the pause. It is a return to your spring, a reclaiming of your most vital energy. It is the beginning of a life lived not by default, but by design. Excellent. Now, let's bring these reflections into your world, into your lived experience. After all, theory is useless if it can't be felt and applied in the arena of real life. I don't want you to be just a spectator, but an active participant in this exploration. I'd like you to take a moment and close your eyes. If you can't, just look away from the screen and dip into your memory. Can you remember the last time you felt completely drained? Not just tired, but with a sense of emptiness, as if your energy had been siphoned right out of you. Try to visualize the situation. Who was involved? What was the request made of you? What was your response? Now, the most important question. When you said yes, did you feel a wave of genuine satisfaction or a subtle pang of resentment? A weight on your shoulders? Be honest with yourself. There's no judgment here. That feeling, that pang of heaviness, is your psyche sending you a message. It's your inner spring telling you that the water level is getting dangerously low. How many times a week do you feel that same pang? How many times a day? Many of us learn to ignore this message. We rationalize it. We tell ourselves, it's just for today. He needs it more than I do. Or, I don't want to make waves. But what we're really saying is, His needs are more important than mine. His comfort is worth my discomfort. Where does this belief come from? Who taught you that constant self-sacrifice is a virtue? Think about it. Was it a parent, a religious figure, an educational system? We internalize these external voices, and they become our own inner critic, policing our boundaries before we even have a chance to set them. Can you hear that voice now, as we speak? The voice that might be saying this idea of unavailability is selfish or wrong? Acknowledge that voice. It isn't you. It's an echo from the past, a program that can be rewritten. Let's do a short mental exercise. Imagine a colleague, we'll call him Mark, approaches your desk with that familiar look. He needs help with a report, which, as you know from experience, means you'll end up doing most of the heavy lifting. The pattern is always the same. Your initial, conditioned impulse is to smile and say, "Sure, Mark, no problem." Now, let's flip the script. Mark approaches. You take a deep breath, look at him calmly, and say one of two things. Option A. Mark, I'd love to help, but I'm completely swamped with my own priorities today. I can't. Option B. That sounds important, Mark. Let me finish what I'm doing and take a look at my workload. I can get back to you by the end of the day. What do you feel as you imagine saying those words? Discomfort? Fear? Maybe a pang of guilt? Analyze that feeling. Is it fear of Mark's reaction? Fear that he'll think poorly of you? Fear that you'll no longer be seen as the helpful guy? Now, go one step further. Imagine the best case scenario. Mark says, "No problem. I totally get it. I'll ask someone else." And he walks away. How do you feel now? Relieved? Lighter? Powerful? That feeling of relief and lightness is your reward. That is your psyche celebrating the fact that you protected it. It's the water returning to your spring. At first, the discomfort of saying no might seem greater than the discomfort of saying yes. But that's only because one is familiar and the other is not. With practice, the scales will tip. The discomfort of violating your own boundaries will become unbearable, while the strength of protecting them will become second nature. Now, let's talk about silence in the digital world. The smartphone, that little glass box that has become a portal for the entire world to demand your attention at any moment. That seen on WhatsApp, the read receipt on an email. These are digital shackles. They create an expectation of an immediate response that is inhuman and unsustainable. Have you ever found yourself crafting an excuse for not having replied to a message within 5 minutes? Sorry for the delay. I was in the shower. My bad. I didn't see the notification. Why do we feel obligated to justify our own time? Who gave the other person the right to expect an instant reply? The answer is, we did. What if you simply stopped justifying? What if you answered non-urgent messages when it was convenient for you? An hour later, the next day, what would happen? Some might get impatient, but what does that reveal about them and their expectations of you? It reveals they see you as a 24/7 customer service line, not as a human being with your own life. To stop responding immediately isn't ignoring. It's teaching others how to treat you. It's setting a pace of communication that serves your peace, not someone else's anxiety. Think of the power you reclaim. Instead of having your day fragmented into dozens of small reactions, you group your communications into specific blocks of time, once or twice a day. The rest of your time is yours, uninterrupted, a time for deep work, for profound thought, for creativity, for being present with your family, or simply for silence. How would your life change if you had hours of uninterrupted focus every single day? What projects could you finally start or finish? What level of peace could you achieve? This practice goes beyond productivity. It touches the essence of your mental health. Anxiety thrives on reactivity. When you are constantly on alert, waiting for the next notification, the next request, your nervous system remains in a chronic state of fight or flight. It's exhausting. Conscious unavailability is a balm for this system. It's a declaration that you are safe, that you are in control, that not everything is an emergency. I want you to ask yourself, who benefits most from your excessive availability? Is it you, or is it others? Is it your career that's advancing, or is it the careers of your boss and colleagues that you are subsidizing with your energy? Are your relationships deepening, Or are you just filling the emotional void of people who are unwilling to do their own inner work? This is not an accusation. It is an invitation to clarity. Being a helpful and supportive person is a wonderful thing. But there is a fine line between support and enabling, between generosity and self-negation. Genuine support empowers the other person. Constant enabling weakens them, and you as well. You become a facilitator of their dependence rather than a catalyst for their strength. Remember, your value is not in your response time. Your value is inherent. It exists regardless of how many emails you answer or how many favors you do. By practicing strategic absence, you are not diminishing your value. You are, in fact, beginning to recognize it for the first time. You are treating yourself as someone precious, and the world, in time, will follow your lead. So, what is your first step? It doesn't have to be an overnight revolution. It can be something small. Today, leave one non-urgent message unanswered for an hour longer than usual. Tomorrow, when someone asks you for an immediate favor, use the phrase, "Let me think about that, and I'll get back to you." Over the weekend, set aside 2 hours where your phone is in another room, turned off. Start small. Feel the power these small acts of sovereignty give you. Let that feeling guide you toward bigger steps. Are you ready to stop being a harbor open to every wind and start being the captain of your own ship? Perfect. We have gathered the scattered currents of our thought and brought them into a safe harbor of clarity and purpose. Throughout our conversation, we have explored an idea that might seem counterintuitive in our hyper-connected world, that conscious unavailability and strategic silence are not acts of selfishness, but are in fact essential tools for self-preservation, authenticity, and personal growth. We've seen how excessive availability, often masked as a virtue, can become a trap that drains our psychic energy and makes us vulnerable to manipulation. We anchored this understanding in deep psychological concepts. We spoke of the persona, the face we show the world, and the danger of completely identifying with the helper mask. This idea is explored extensively by Carl Jung in his work, Psychological Types. Psychic energy, or libido, as Jung describes it, is finite. When we squander it, we lack the fuel for the most crucial task of all, individuation, which is detailed in works like The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. We also touched upon the wisdom of Arthur Schopenhauer, From the World as Will and Representation, who teaches us that freedom from the will or blind impulse for validation leads us to peace. By practicing unavailability, we are freeing ourselves from this tyranny. To recap the key takeaways. First, your energy is your most precious resource. Guard it as a guardian protects a treasure. Second, conscious unavailability isn't about rejecting others, but about choosing yourself. It's the act of installing a gate instead of living in an open field. Third, silence and the pause are your most powerful tools. They break the cycle of reactivity and teach others the value of your time. The central idea we've reinforced since our new introduction is this: taking back control over your availability is the first step to taking back control over your life. It isn't about becoming inaccessible, but about becoming intentional. It's the difference between being a raft adrift at sea and being the captain of your ship. Remember, this is a practice, not perfection. There will be days when you fall back into old patterns. The goal isn't infallibility, but awareness. Be patient and compassionate with yourself on this journey. Every small step toward honoring your own space is a monumental victory for your soul. Great. Now that we've explored these depths together, the conversation doesn't have to end here. If this video resonated with you, if it touched upon a truth you felt but perhaps couldn't name, the first thing I ask is that you take a moment today to practice one small act of strategic silence. Just one. Then, join this community of thinkers and seekers. Hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We do this not to demand your attention, but so you'll be invited to continue this journey of self-discovery with us whenever a new insight is shared. The true strength of these ideas grows when they are shared. Think of one person in your life, a friend, a sibling, a colleague who you see struggling with this same burden of excessive availability. Share this video with them. not as a criticism, but as a gift, an invitation for them to find this strength as well. And finally, the comments section below isn't just a comment section, it's our space for dialogue. I want to hear from you. What was the most powerful insight you took away from this video? What will be your first step in practicing conscious unavailability? Your stories and reflections enrich this community and show us that we are not alone on this journey. Thank you for granting me your most precious assets, your time and your attention.